Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne with Back to Earth Creations, and in this video I'm going to show y'all how to make this little wire wrapped heart. So let's get started. Here we have some examples of variations of this design. I'm going to be showing y'all a merger between these two because I do have these really cute little bails that you can make like a little loop and attach them to. Like if you can see here, we just brought the loop around and put the bail on. So that's an idea. But then in case you don't have additional bails, or if you want this look, I wanted to show y'all how to make it in this style. So also, the difference between using an 18 gauge and a 21 gauge square wire makes, oh my gosh, such a difference. So this one here is made with the 18 gauge and being wrapped with the 26 gauge, and then this one here is 21 gauge that's been wrapped, I think, with 28 gauge, but I'm going to be wrapping it with 26 gauge today. So that's how those look. And so to get started, we are going to take, this is some of the Parawire that we sell on our website, or you can go directly to parawire.com, but this is what we send out in our kits as well. So with our monthly craft along kits, it's different wire gauges every month. So different wire gauges and colors and different things. But I'm going to measure out 9 inches for the outside of our heart. And then I'm going to do like 2 inches for our inside heart. Now, however large you decide to make yours, I realize I'm off screen right now, but all that's happening is I've got a ruler on the edge of my table, and I was just holding it up to it to measure and cut. And I do recommend to folks to check out our masterclass. Sorry, words are hard. Our wire wrapping masterclass. We have an entire episode about spirals, and these are listed on our website, backtoearthcreations.com, under our tutorials wire wrapping section. And you can find them here on YouTube as well, but over on our website, you don't have to watch any ads, and you can also, they're all like in one place. It's not like some convoluted playlist or something. So I've bent a little tighter than a 90-degree angle in the middle of our short piece of wire, and I'm just going to trim the tips to make sure that they are nice and flush to match each other. You could do them angled and do a cool like little tapered end. There's all sorts of different things that you could do, but I'm just going to do mine nice and blunt, and I'm grabbing it as close to the tip of the wire and as close to the tip of the pliers as I can, and then I'm going to bring this in. And again, for the sake of symmetry, I really like to make the same style of loop and then flip to the other side and get these inner loops to match, because if every step that I do, I can do the same on each side, then the more likely, it's not going to be perfect, but the more likely it may be that our heart will be symmetrical. And so now I'm reinserting my pliers, and I have my finger there on the back side of the spiral to keep it nice and flat, and I am just going to spiral that in. And you can see this one came out a little blocky, and what happened there is the nose of my pliers got in the way of the curve forming. Not a huge problem, but it's just something that if you don't want it to happen, it's good to know how and why, because then you know we may be able to avoid it. But yeah, you can see there, whenever it starts to get a little in the way, I want to just remove my pliers. Oh, this one is so jank looking. I'm going to bring that in and then smush just a little. Those are probably the worst little heart loops. That's okay though. It does not have to be perfect. And so what I'm like, something went sideways and now it's all like distorted. I thought I had them even. Oh well. Better luck next time. I think sometimes letting go of the pursuit of perfection and just letting a piece be what it's going to be is okay too. But if that super duper bothers you, we can just try again. Now also, this bare square copper wire is a little stiff. You could heat it up with a torch to anneal it, or you could even use a round wire. Like I would recommend a 20 or 18 gauge round wire for this inner heart as well. I just really like the way that it looked with the square wire because it makes such a nice little like flash and contrast to the coiling around the edges. So I'm just going to let it be what it is, because whenever I don't fixate on it, I think it looks great. And so now I'm going to come here with my flat nose pliers, and I'm going to grab our, how long was this? Like 9 inches of wire about in the center. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to bend it just full on all the way around like that. And I like to grab this in another pair of flat jaw pliers to hold the wires flat next to each other with just a small protrusion. And now I'm going to grab and squish. And this just makes like a really flat, nice, taper. And so from here, we could hold with our flat nose pliers. We could use round nose pliers. I kind of like it with the round nose. I like a very curvy heart. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to bend one side around the curve of the nose of my pliers and then to the other way. And it's just like that. And now you could use a knitting needle or a pen. I am just going to use the mandrel pliers here. I'm shaping around the largest curve. We can always size it down, but I want both of, I'm going to grab this wire and I'm going to bring it around. And what you can see, it's on top. So top is between the piece and the camera and bottom is between the piece and the table. So keeping that in mind, I want the other side to be on the same, like the other wire to be on the same side of the heart. It just makes the next step after that so much easier. And so now I'm going to pay attention to the positioning that I had done, because I had grabbed about 1 centimeter is where the jaw of my pliers are landing. So again, on this side, I'm going to grab about 1 centimeter from where that little point diverged. And then I'm going to bend this other side around. And it just helps make the heart a little bit more symmetrical. Now let's see here. Oh, I could have definitely gotten away with making a smaller heart loop. So let's see now, what if I did this with my 8mm? So we can just kind of, if we pull, we have a little stiff spot there, but that's okay. We can come around and reshape it with the jaw of our pliers. Did you see how we kind of nibbled our way around? And so just bringing that in. This might be a great way. We could do some butterfly wings like this, y'all, if we changed the angles. So I'm going to have to experiment more with that in the future, I think. So again, the way that I did that was I just grabbed in relatively the same spot and then I pulled down, but you can see how it made it kind of flare out a bit. So if I come through here and kind of nibble around that curve, it doesn't do anything. Well, it seemed like it had done something the first time. There we go. And kind of just round it out. When in doubt, squish it out. Like, there's no wasted time or effort or materials when you're learning and experimenting. That's what keeps this stuff spicy anyhow. Okay, so now just making sure our little heart humps are even. There we go. Whoop. And you can get real picky with it, or we can just move on. Artist's choice. So I'm going to place Those just size checking. I like it. So from here, I'm going to grab with my wide flat nose pliers. I want a nice firm grip on this. But first I'm going to bring these guys out straight. There we go. And I'm going to take a nice firm grip. And I am going to bend these wires up and back and just pressing them. I'm leaving the jaw of my pliers in there to make space for whenever we do the coiling of the bail with a half round wire, though you could totally use the same 26 gauge that we're going to be using. And in fact, I may do that because we could do some cool coiling patterns, or we could wrap it with half round. But I also kind of, I don't know, we'll see where the project takes us. And so I am going to split this a little wider though, that way we'll be able to fit our wire in there. And we're going to pull off a full arm span. It's probably more than what we need, but I really don't feel like splicing in more wire. Though if the wire breaks, we may end up having to do that anyways. But just a full arm span, so around 5 feet. I wouldn't use less than 3 feet of wire for this one, because I had to splice in wire on this piece. So, and that used about 3 feet of wire. So I think 3 feet would have been perfect for this one, but I may decide to do the bail differently. So I am going to find the ends of the wire that we've cut so that I can find the center. And I'm going to come off about 2 inches from center. And I'm going to start on this side of the heart. No, I'm not. I'm going to use the little inside heart. That's right. Okay. And then we're going to just start coiling around this. There's 1, 2 little coils. I'm going to risk zooming in just a smidge. There we go. So there's our 2 coils. And then 3, smush, 4, smush, and 5, smush. Now I want to bring that down into that bend. I'm going to do 2 coils on the bend, 1 and 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then the old smushy squish, there we go. And now we can set this, and I'm paying attention to where my wire is exiting. This one is on the front, and again, this one's on the back. So I want to insert this into our heart so that the wire is wrapping around the back on this side and it's wrapping around the front on this side here. So I'm going to zoom out just a smidge more. Also, I want to give a shout out to our Kick Studio audience. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with me today while I record these tutorials. I love having y'all kind of keeping me company. We stream on Kick every Tuesday and Saturday from noon until 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And so yeah, thank you guys. Now back to it. I'm just trying to keep it a little centered. And then we're going to wrap. There's once and twice around both. And then I'm going to wrap 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm sorry, I never mean to wander out of frame, but it does happen. The good news is I will be demonstrating on the other side as well. Now we do have an option here. You can see I kind of transition from coiling on the inside to coiling on the outside. We could totally just do the coil on the inside at the bottom and then transition here and still do those together. I just wanted to communicate the techniques on this. Feel free to, and I encourage you guys to add as much variation as you feel inspired to. So there's no right or wrong way to do this stuff. There's just, 24 hours in a day, and that's usually the big hang up. So now we have those two around both on the other side. And here is where I'm going to make the transition to doing my coiling just there on the edge. So there's 1, 2, and it can be a little tricky, but just go slow and steady. 3, it is not a race. 4, be patient with yourself. Be patient with the project. If you need to set it down and take a break and come back. Also, I'm not going to bother counting on this because the past, like, all of these that I've made, I've tried to count and I get to like 12 and then get distracted, so I give up. I'm allotting that brain cell to something else. And so I'm just bringing it over and in between and then pressing with my fingertip. And I'm just going to continue this all the way around. Now, you could weave this into other wire wrapping projects. You could add beads to the edge, would be really cool. You could... Possibilities are limitless, yo. And if you follow along with any of our tutorials or use materials from our website or our craft-along kits, shameless self-promotion, you can use the hashtag #CraftAlongWithVon. It's down in the video description. And that way we go through on our Friday live streams here on YouTube and like look at what everybody's been posting. There's a little bug. Spring must be in the air. But yeah, and so that way, it's kind of a nice way to get to see what folks are up to and to get to see your version, which y'all inspire me every day with your creativity and your kindness. So thank you guys for being you. And I'm going to come through here like that and just go home, little bug. And then, oh, I do love the way that looks. And then just coming through. And my hands will get cramped up sometimes with trying to do projects like this, which leads me to search for my little clamps. I'm going to go grab a clamp. I'll be right back. So here I have, let me zoom out for you. This is a ring clamp and I love it. It has some leather here in the bit, like in the grabby part of it. And that's great for keeping the wood from biting into your project. And I am just going to grab it like that. And then I use this wedge to just hold it. And this way I just hold on to this piece instead of clenching up on the piece itself. So as someone who's been wire wrapping basically full-time since 2008, I do wish I had some mercy on my hands, is the only way I can think to put it. Now it changes a little. The tension, is being applied to the piece slightly differently. So you can see it's really pulling out on that point now. And that's okay. We can just tweak it a bit. Yeah, there we go. And so if you don't have to be, if you're like me and you find yourself death gripping things, a tool like this, I think I paid $8 to $12 for this maybe. And if you're crafty, you could probably figure out how to make your own clamp with like wing nuts and some wood. And then I'm also going to try just a different angle. Oh, this is so much easier. So I'm pressing the wire down in my finger and then I'm just hooking around. Oh, that's so much easier. Okay. So you don't have to just suffer through crampy hands and awkward angles. And this is a reminder mostly to myself, honestly. And then I am going to scooch all my pliers and stuff out of the way because this weaving wire that we're working with will get snagged on literally anything. And so the more obstacles I can remove, the less friction there is in doing the wrapping, and therefore the more fun I am the more fun I am having doing the wrapping. So there we go, just wrapping and smushing. Let's see, I am going to bring this back around just to look at it from a different angle. I would like to continue to get that wrap really close to the tip, so I am going to remove the clamp. And I'm going to take our other side of the wire and just place it off to the left of me, so it's more or less out of the way. And so now from here, I just needed to be able to have that space to get my fingers and to see what's happening. So on this side, I am not going to be making the bail with this wire. So I am going to snip to about 6 inches of length, set that wire off to the side, and this is where I turn to hand sewing. And so still trying to make it to where I'm only going around that one wire. We just bring it around. And again, it's not a matter of like, oh, well, we just do this. This takes lots of practice, y'all, but it is totally worth it. And I'm placing my thumbnail over that previous coil. That way, whenever I pull down, it snugs in nice and tight where it should. And I'm going to risk another zoom in because I feel like that could be helpful. So I'm just coming around, angling so that it's going right through. If you're familiar at all with sewing with a needle and thread, this comes in really handy with just having like brain needle coordination. But by placing my thumbnail over that previous coil, whenever we pull down, it uses our thumbnail as a ramp to just get into position. And so I'm going to bring it around again, insert that wire, grabbing it with my pliers. These are my bent nose pliers. I do enjoy them because they get in at a pretty good angle, even in tight spaces. And if this starts distorting your wire, don't stress about it. We'll be able to smush that back together pretty effectively. I'm not going to say easily because it can squishing takes some practice sometimes. But yeah, just trying it from a different angle until you find what's working best for you. So again, just coming through and sewing. Being able to apply a little bit of pressure from behind with my fingertip, with my index fingertip, helps me to keep the heart form from distorting. And then we're going to do, we're getting close. Let's do 2 more. And I think that will be, oh, I don't know. Then we can round the curve and then it gets easy. We just got to get through this tough part. There we are. Okay, so now you can see we're right here. I'm just using my thumbnail to kind of cinch it around. And we're going to do that coil. And then, now the thing is, I've just remembered I was going to be doing this with the half round wire for the bail. Or I might not, I don't know. If I were to continue with the weaving wire to do the bail, I would continue up a bit, and I just want to make it to where it's even on both sides, but I've decided that I am going to do the half round for the bail. So I'm actually going to come in here and very carefully just snip our coiling wire. And I'm going to slide that off. And then from there we can kind of, yeah, that's looking nice. And now we can get started in on the other side. And so from here, again, putting my pliers off to the side so they don't get tangled, I'm going to go there's once and twice around both. Give it a little smush, keep it tidy as you go. And I like to have this pushed out just a smidge. And then we can go 1 and 2. This may have been better to do with a 28 gauge, just because it's not going to resist you as much, so you're not going to have to tug on it as hard. Oh my god, that's a great big bug. Where did that bug come from? Oh, we have a door open. Okay. Sorry. This like honk and fly, just like, whew. Okay, anyways. Okay, we did 4. What were we talking about? Yeah, the 26 gauge is kind of, I have to pull on it and it pulls the 21 gauge out of alignment. If you're having difficulty with that, I highly recommend sizing down to a 28 gauge for your coiling wire or weaving wire or whatever we're calling it today. So there's 2. Huzzah! That part's so fast. That's my favorite part. This part is my least favorite part, but I love how it looks. But oh my gosh. So now we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to open this up just a bit more. It's more of that work harder, not smarter. No, that's backwards. Work smarter, not harder. Send help. Okay, so we've got, there's 1. Here I go counting again. 2. I just like counting, I suppose. 3, 4. We're in the final stretch, y'all. 5. Almost. I got my second wind. 6, 7. We're just coming around, but by opening up, maintaining the integrity of the curve, we can still just open things up a little, make life a little easier on ourselves, so that it kind of broadens the target that we have to slip the wire between. Just coming through. Again, I'm using my thumbnail as a stop, because if I can stop it before it wants to get hooked. Let's test the theory. Yeah. If I can stop it before it gets hooked around that little spiral, it makes me wild. Because that's the kind of stuff that really adds friction to the whole project. Because it's, if you can make something 1% better, like one tiny bit better, but you're doing it over and over and over again, well, that little bit of improvement really compounds. And so we're just coiling. And I understand that for experienced wire wrappers, this is probably inane and making you like bored out of your mind. You can totally feel free to skip ahead, or YouTube has this neat function where you can put it in like 2 times speed. Ooh, hey, John, no. Sorry. It came right at me. But my heart's always with the beginners. And there's stuff here that it's like, you know, that I'm probably taking for granted about hand placement, or, you know, something, if there's anything that I can be demonstrating that's helpful to somebody who's, you know, just starting out, or it's their first time doing something like this, well, I'm going to try my best to do that. And also, if y'all have any questions about anything, do feel free to leave them down in the comments, or you can also, because if you leave it down in the comments, then you can get help from more than just, you know, me. But if you want to email me a picture and be like, hey, I'm having trouble with I've had folks take pictures of their work and like circle, you know, and be like, this right here, how do I make this not happen? That helps us to be helpful to you. But it can take me a while to reply to emails, but that is the way to contact us. I don't really keep up with my Facebook messages or Instagram messages or anything like that. So send me an email and I'll do my best to be helpful to you. And sometimes I change angle and decide that I want to go right back to whatever other angle it was that I was doing. That's okay. There's no rules. There we go. And then I'm going to do squishy smush to get those coils a little tighter into each other. There's that one, and it's starting to get a little tight, so I may be getting into sewing soon. Let's see. The longer I can go without having to sew it, I think the happier I think I am, but also the more kinked my wire is getting. Just with trying to get it around in these tight spots. There we go. Yep, it's time to start sewing, I think. So I'm going to grab my bent nose pliers. And we did decide that we're doing the half round. If y'all would like another tutorial on this, using I'm trying to figure out a way that I can do both. Well, I've already snipped it, so it is what it is, but because I think the half round, that's getting to be a pretty common bail style, like, or I might be mistaken on that. Oh my gosh, it never even occurred to me to, oh, well, that's why, it's because I can't get it back around. Okay. And sometimes the wire is going to want to kink. Just being attentive to your work, and the more you work with your wire, the more you're going to get to know its tendencies, and you'll be able to feel a kink whenever it's coming on, like in your wire. And so you'll feel that resistance, and you can make judgments about whether or not to keep applying tension, or if you want to get in there and try to unkink it, smooth it back out. Now here I'm going to show you what has happened is my wire has backed up on over itself. So I'm just going to try to push it with my fingernail. And that doesn't always work, so sometimes I'll like to get in there with the edge of my flat nose pliers and just push. But all that accomplished was distorting the heart hump. So sometimes we've just got to open it up, kind of undo what we had done, and then get it back in there. There we go. I'm going to zoom back out just a smidge because I know it drives me nuts when I wander out of frame. Hooey. So we're going to keep going because we've got just a few more stitches. And so I've just brought this around. I've somehow forgotten how to sew with wire. It changes so much. Like I can do this side of the heart all day, but the other side gives me some unique challenges. So we can kind of push our wire up from inside if we want. Just however you go about doing it, the end goal is to get this wire wrapped around the other one. And then I'm going to do one more. And then I'm going to pull it tight. Excellent. And I think that's got them pretty lined up. I'm happy with that. And so from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you with the tail of this wire how I would start a bail that's woven. Because if you wanted to do that style of bail, you would just continue it for the full length of the wire. Though this is also another great opportunity to show y'all how to splice stuff together. So I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know which way I'm going to go with. So there's 3, 4. We'll just craft and see what happens. 5, 6. Now you could continue just wrapping in a tight coil around our 2 wires for the bail. So here we have, that was our 5 or 6 coils, so that's 7, 8, 9, 10. If these were round and had any amount of space in between them, the square wires sit really well flush against each other. And so I don't like to separate them if I don't have to. I'm getting in here and smush and squish. And so if we were doing this with just the round wire, we could have continued that all the way up and had it be just how it's going to be. But I think I'm going to do this bail a little different. Now, if we were attaching a pre-made bail, you can kind of see here on this one, I had snipped it and just made a loop, very similar to the very first spiral that we had done on the small heart, like these ones. It's just a loop, and I want it to be large enough, you know, to accommodate holding on to the bail. But for this one, so to do that, I'd snip it like there probably and bend it forward. But for this one, we are going to use a stick mandrel. You could use a pen or a knitting needle. I'm using like around the 5mm section, and I want to come right to the top of where that little bit of coiling stopped, which is about 1 centimeter from that bend, is where I'm bending the bail. And so I've got that bent around, and then I'm just moving this to kind of right there. I've not made a bail like this before, but I had an idea, so I'm going with it. And now I'm going to bend it kind of down, so it's either side of the bail that's there. And then I'm going to leave the mandrel in place because this wire is not going to want to do what I want it to do. Like, if ever I were a betting person, I would bet on the wire not doing what I want it to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a training bend to try to help the odds in my favor. And I'm just going to get my pliers in there and bend it just a bit. And I'm lining that right up with where I want the wire to be settling in. So, whoop, grabbing with my flat. Sorry, it's hard to looking through the camera and around the camera. So I got hold. There we are. And now, well, those didn't line up. I'm gonna smush that flat. And then I'll move down a little. Boop. There we go. That's close enough. That is exactly what I call close enough. And then I'm going to bring these wires out, and I'm going to curve them because we're going to be feeding them through here in the middle part. And we can actually just do one at a time. Very important to leave whatever, oops, I'm already getting off track. To leave whatever wire it is that you're using, or not wire, whatever mandrel it is that you're using to keep your wire in shape, go ahead and leave it in there because we're about to apply a lot of pressure. So I'm holding on to my mandrel and I'm applying my first and middle finger onto the humps of the heart, and I'm pressing with my thumb on the back to try to encourage it, and then I'm pulling, and just like that, it's come through. That went about as smooth as I could have hoped for. And I'm going to do that same thing on the other side. Let's go ahead and snip this just a little shorter, because then we don't have to worry about cramming nearly so much. Oh, that's so much easier. Okay, let's go ahead and get this side snipped down too. Okay. And so from here, I'm going to just grab one wire. I'm actually going to set this on the table. I'm going to, well, heck. This is a little trickier than I intended it for it to be. But let's just do it. I'm just bending that around towards the back. So again, I'm taking this side and I'm just going to bend it. And since it's got that training bend, that's where a lot of that tension ends up instead of shrinking our bail loop. And so now from here, I'm going to come in and I'm going to snip well, that was a little farther out than what I needed it. But you can see which wire it is that I'm snipping now, though. It's that one there. So I'm going to come in. I've got my thumb over it because I don't want it to end up in my eyeball. There we go. Because these wire snips will send a little piece of wire like that just shooting through the room. Okay. And so now we have it with that little loop. And it's almost like a link loop of whenever you're making like a bead link or something. Lesson 1 of our wire wrapping masterclass, by the way, which I do recommend. If you're brand new to wire wrapping and you're attempting this project, I would consider this a little bit more of an intermediate project. I know that small projects are way more challenging for me than large ones, but to each their own. And then we can take this and we can leave it like that, or we can splay these wires a little wider and we could pinch them together there in the front. Like, we could do all sorts of different stuff to that bail. So that is how that came out. Though I think I'm going to be honest, I think I prefer attaching just a little bail like that. So I was thinking I didn't like this bail, but then y'all, I just flipped it over and I think I love it. So I'm going to try to get it to match a little bit better on each side. So I'm just coming in again with my flat nose pliers and just making the shape a little bit more on purpose. And so it's a little wonky and weird. And if you decide you still don't like it, what we can do is just cut it off. So I'm going to get our wire snippers in there. Boop. Do that. Boop. Maybe. There we go. And from here, I'm going to bring the wires back to the front. I'm going to straighten them out just a little bit because they're all kind of jank. And I'm going to snip right here. And so this has given us a pretty short bit of wire to make that final bail with. But now I'm going to come through and I'm going to just use my mandrel pliers to shape this down. And I like the mandrel pliers as opposed to my round nose for this because they are not tapered. It's just a cylinder. Whereas my round nose pliers, if I were to do that, the one on the left side would be a little bit smaller. And then we can take that and do the old smushy squish. And now we could attach a jump ring as a bail. We could attach, if we pretended like this is the same metal tone, we could do that one. And I very much prefer that. So that is how to make. Oh yeah, we forgot to squish it. I'm going to come through with my flat nose pliers and just squish the heck out of our tip there and around here on the side. And by using that square wire for the inside, it's going to make our coils look a little bit different than whenever they're round wire. So there it is. Hey guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me during this video. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please do leave them down below. Z-Dog! Oh, we ran off. All the links to everything are down in the video description. Again, if there's any way that I can be helpful to you, be sure to send us an email or leave a comment. And I think that's it. So until next time, you guys, thank you and happy crafting. Mwah. Bye.